Hey there, it's occurred to me recently that some people, when doing their NEBOSH assessments, they overthink the wrong thing. I realised this the other day when someone rang me. They booked an appointment, called me to discuss a critical issue, which was whether they should use the word is or may. They were trying to make a legal argument in their NEBOSH NG2 project, and they didn't know if they should say this regulation is being breached or this regulation may be breached. And they were really getting quite stressed about it. My reaction was a little bit inappropriate, a little bit rude. I went, "What? You're ringing me about that?" It just seemed like such a tiny little detail. And what I realized, thinking about it afterwards, was that this person was overthinking every little word on their project, instead of thinking about the one thing they really should be thinking about, which is, I better not get lost in these woods. The thing they should think about is, what are the marking criteria? The project has to meet the marking criteria. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate. It doesn't have to be grammar perfect, spell checked. It doesn't have to be, perfect in every way. What it does have to do, though, it has to meet the marking criteria. Now, the marking criteria are set out in the guidance, the learner guidance, and there's also examiner guidance, funnily enough. It's all public. If you go trawling through the NEBOSH website, you will find the examiner guidance for NG2 and IG2 practical projects. And it tells you, clear as day, what your project has to do in order to meet the criteria. And so when overthinking things, if you're going to overthink anything when doing a NEBOSH project, think about the criteria and ask yourself, does my project meet the criteria? Now, when it comes to exams, the NEBOSH NG1 or the IG1 exam, it's a different matter. What you need to overthink is what's on the marking scheme. You've got a question. Behind that question, there is a marking scheme. You don't know what that is. It's top secret. I don't know what it is either. Ask yourself, what's on this marking scheme and what's not on it? Now, it all depends on the question and also on the scenario. First thing you have to do is read the question very carefully. Depending on the type of question, it might be theoretical, it might be based on the scenario only, it might be a mixture of the two. Depending on the question, you then write out a short list of possible answers, possible things you could say, and each one of those should, in theory, be worth a mark. You need to ask yourself, are these things likely to be on the marking scheme? If they're off topic, if they're not relevant to what the question's asking, then they're not going to be on the marking scheme, and therefore they shouldn't be on your answer plan. They shouldn't be on your list. So first thing is, are these things on the marking scheme or not? Once you've written down that kind of list of short answers, then write those answers out in full. Now, how much should you write? Well, it depends on the question, to be perfectly honest. Some questions are fairly basic and a very short answer will do. Lists won't do. Most of the time, one word or just listed type answers, they won't do. Write a full sentence at least for each one. But some questions need more than just a full sentence for each point, because some questions will ask you to refer to the scenario to back up what you're saying. And so you might need, 2 sentences per point, or maybe 3, 2 to 3 lines perhaps, at most, to make your point and support it using information from the scenario. And so for the exam, it's a little bit different. What should you overthink? Well, you don't have to overthink your spelling or your grammar or anything else, but you do need to overthink, is this on the marking scheme or not? And then you should certainly have a good think about, how much detail do I have to put into my answer here? But the first thing is, don't overthink the level of detail. Don't overthink, is it a comment question or a what question or a why question or anything like that. Stop overthinking these things. Think about, is this on the marking scheme?